It is my pleasure to speak with Steve Lowell. Steve, you are an award winning speaker with over 50 years of experience on the stage. You are also a three-time international best-selling author and elite speaker trainer. You have shared the stage with legends like John Canfield and Brian Tracy, and you have delivered over 3,500 keynote speeches. You are passionate about empowering entrepreneurs to unleash their full potential as speakers, transform their message into revenue, and make a meaningful impact on their audiences. Steve, welcome to the show. It's such a delight to speak with you today.
Well, thank you, Aggie. It's great to be here.
I was telling you, and I will share that very quickly before we started recording, how much I enjoy conversations with people that talk about speaking. It is maybe a personal thing of mine as well. And Steve, I look forward to explore this topic of speaking for entrepreneurs or generally in that direction. Before we go there, there's something I would like you to tell me. You've shared the stage, as I said in the introduction, with legends like Brian Tracy, John Canfield. Can you recount an experience that had a profound impact on your own speaking career?
So the question, repeat the question for me. I want to make sure I understood the question.
Sure. If I would like you to share an experience that had a profound impact on your own speaking career.
Oh yeah, there's many, but I think the very first one was when I was in my early 20s. You see, I've been on the live stage since the age of 6. And now I wasn't a professional speaker at 6, but I was a guitar player and I was playing guitar at, different places, and I would always speak with the audience. And then as I grew older, I had a band and we, toured the country and those kinds of things. And when I was in my early 20s, I was starting to realize that my musical abilities were very limited and they were only going to get me so far. And I stumbled on a videotape of Zig Ziglar. And I'd never heard of Zig Ziglar. And I just thought he's the strangest guy with that Southern accent and all of that. And I noticed this guy, he's by himself on the stage. He's got no equipment. He's got no bandmates that are, with attitudes. His audience isn't drunk, like they're real sober people. And he's just speaking, like he's just saying things and earning a living. And I thought, what a great job that sounds like. So I was first exposed to the whole concept of speaking through Zig Ziglar. But then what happened was I started to take training to become a professional speaker. That was my intention. And I was training with a company called the Dale Carnegie Training Company. And over some years, I was working with them. And I was sitting at the back of the room of a class. I had taken all the classes and I was attending all the classes. And I'm watching the instructors instruct, watching them coach people. And in my mind, I'm coaching and I'm watching the instructors, And one of the instructors came to me one time and he said, "Would you like to try coaching somebody?" And I said, "Sure." So I step up to coach somebody. And the participant that comes out is the toughest one in the whole class. Like he doesn't want to be there. He's negative. He's angry. His boss is forcing him to be there. And he just didn't want to be there. So I started coaching him. And within a couple of minutes, I had him totally opened up. And he was dynamic and he was excited and he was engaged and he was all these great things. And at that moment, I said, that's what I can do. I said, I can do that. I can help people. I didn't know I had this gift, but I realized I've got a gift. I can take people who aren't really speakers. I can put them on a platform in front of an audience and I can pull magic out of them they never knew existed. And I didn't know I could do that. And so I learned that day that I had a gift, that I could do that. And so I turned it into a business and I've been doing it ever since.
That's fantastic, and I will come back to that gift of being able to coach others on speaking, as you said. Can you share quickly also one personal experience about becoming a profound experience on your own speaking career or improvement?
Yeah. So there have been many, but I think the one that immediately comes to mind is when I got to be on the stage with Jack Canfield. We spoke at the same event, and this one wasn't that long ago. This was, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or something.
Mm.
And we spoke at the same event, and I was speaking, and he was in the front row, and then he spoke immediately after me, and we got to speak a little bit. But then afterwards, I went into the room where it was lunchtime, and we had speakers. We were sitting at the same table as Jack Canfield, and I walked up to Jack. He was on the table, at the table, and I walked up. As I walk up, Jack stopped. He said, "Steve," he said, "that was a master class in how to give a speech." And I said, "Hey, Jack," I said, "if I take out my phone, would you say that again?" So he said, "Sure." Took out my phone and I recorded it, and he gave me this beautiful, 3-minute testimonial. And it was, and I think that was profound for me, because although I had been speaking for many years and I had been all over the world speaking and coaching and doing my programs, that was the first celebrity speaker that validated what I was doing. And so I thought, well, okay, that's, and then from there we became friends with Jack. We became friends with Brian Tracy, and who I know was also on your show, and some others. And so that was a profound thing for me, because it was the first time I think I sort of felt like I'm part of that world now, and so that was cool.
Thank you for sharing that. I enjoyed listening to the story, and also I appreciated how you said that you directly went for it in a way.
I always
Uh,
do that. I always have my phone with me, so that, because sometimes, after you speak or something, you're in the halls, and somebody will come by and they'll say, "Hey, yeah, that was really great. Can you say that again for me?" And so I've got all kinds of great spur of the moment, on the spot testimonials just from people who enjoyed what I did. So I think that's very important. I encourage all speakers to do that.
Thank you, and that I will count that as the first practical tip you shared already.
Yeah.
I want to go back, Steve, to what you were saying earlier about the gift. You used that
Mhm.
word
Mhm.
to, and you said something. I will rephrase it in my own words now, along the lines of teaching or helping someone to speak, even though they are not speakers, or something along those lines.
Mhm.
What I wanted to ask about this is, what would you say to someone listening right now that, of course they speak, but they don't feel that their voice, I will
Mhm.
put it like that, is not powerful enough, and people,
Mhm.
they don't maybe listen to that the way that he would like or she would like.
Right. Okay. So I think, you know, there are many, many, many tips and techniques for speaking, as you know. I mean, I wrote a book on one. Many people, I wrote a book. Many people have written books on how to speak. But here are some of the most important things, Aggie. I think um, the first thing I think we need to do is, when we speak, whether it's virtual or live, we need to put our mindset in what I call a mindset of service, which means we want to be in service to that audience. Because what happens with so many people, as I'm sure you know, is they get very uncomfortable and they get very self conscious. And that's what stops the voice from being heard. When we're uncomfortable, we tend to restrict ourselves, and we put this protective wall around us, and then we don't release our personality. We don't release our communication skills. We don't fully express that which is within us, because we protect ourselves. And when we protect ourselves, that stifles our voice, not just the voice that comes out of the mouth, but the whole self expression gets restricted because we're protected. And that protection happens because we are in a mindset of self service, or a mindset of self preservation. And so, what we want to do is before we speak, shift that mindset so that we're in a mindset of service. And so I'm here to serve you. I'm here to serve your audience. And I want to serve the organizer of the event. I want to serve the other speakers. I want to serve the guest. I want to be here to serve. And if I put my mindset in this position of service instead of self-service, that means it allows me to express. I'm not protecting myself anymore. I'm releasing myself. And so to do this, we have to give ourselves permission to get it wrong a little bit. We have to give ourselves permission. Maybe we're going to say the wrong thing. Maybe we're going to do the wrong thing. Maybe we'll say or do something incorrectly. But if we're in service, if the attention is service, then none of those things really matter. So if you want your voice truly to be heard, release everything about you that expresses by getting your mindset into a place of service.
Thank you for this advice. You reminded me something similar that I also, because it is a mindset shift, and that's taking, I remember it was taking my attention of how well I will perform, which is,
Mhm.
as you said, it is the self-preservation, my performance,
Mhm.
and shifting the attention to how can I serve. And, I'm not necessarily now speaking in terms of speaking in front of an audience. I mean, even if you speak with three members of your team, or,
Mhm.
the members of your family, or whatever, I believe the same principles in general apply. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, sure. Getting into a mindset of service in every area of life, is a good thing to do. But I think there are also times when you do need to get into a mindset of self-service. I mean, we have to take
Hmm.
care of ourselves. We need to take care of our health, and we need to take care of our bodies, and we need to take care of our mind, and we need to take care of our emotions. We need to take care of our spiritual life. So there is, a lot of self-service involved. But I've
Hmm.
always found that even when I was playing music, getting on the stage, it was really more in my mind about how can I entertain this audience. And I think that's where it came from. When I was young, when I was playing in bands, I would see a lot of other bands play. And what I noticed about most of them is they would have what's called a set list, which means on the floor, they would have in front of them a list of songs that they were going to play in the order in which they were going to play them. And I never understood that, because when I played in my band, my next song that we were playing was determined by how well the audience enjoyed this song. And then, so I was always, how can we best attend to this audience? What do they like? Do they like the fast song? Do they like the slow songs? Do they like country? Do they like rock? And I'm listening and I'm watching and I'm paying attention. And we always tried to guide what we were doing based on what was serving them the best. And I think that transposed into my speaking business, my speaking career. So I want to serve. And so definitely in every area of life, I think we get into a mindset of service. We become more valuable to everybody, including ourselves.
Absolutely. Steve, let's go now. Let's change a bit the direction and
Mhm.
discuss this speaking and monetizing. I have read and heard you talk about monetize your message with speaking. So, bringing the conversation to this particular topic
Mhm.
for entrepreneurs, but not. Let's say let's focus on that, but not exclusively. But because I think uh, anyway, I'm I'm now getting off the point, so I will ask my question and let
Sure.
you answer.
Sure.
So, first of all, when you say monetize your speaking, can you tell me what you mean by that?
Yeah. I mean, making money through speaking. And there's a multitude of ways to do that.
As a speaker, you mean? As a
Well, not well. So it's
ah,
monetizing, making money through the spoken word. So using speaking to make money. So if we break down the speaking business very simply into two categories, we've got the speakers who speak to be paid. So they go and they speak and they get paid to speak, and then they leave and go to the next one. And
Yes.
then, so, right. So that's the speaker's fee side of the world. Then there's I call it speak to sell, right? So you're speaking in order to generate business. So those are the two ways. So when I say monetize your speaking, it could be either way. It could be either way. And so there's a whole discussion around the advantages and disadvantages of each and how do you
Hmm.
pursue each, because the
Hmm.
process is completely different, the skill sets are different, the everything is different.
Great. So thank you for clarifying this. And so I did not mean for professional speakers that appear on stage to in order to get paid. I
Hmm.
meant in more in the sense of an entrepreneur who speaks,
Hmm.
to people all the time.
Hmm.
Uh, so I suppose you would agree with me that many struggle to achieve that when they speak, or
Oh yeah.
they don't consider to be very good at it. What do you think are some common reasons why this happens?
Yeah, there are some very common reasons, and the good news is they're not difficult to overcome. Right.
Mm.
So here are some of the most common reasons. First, it starts off again with mindset. If we, and I won't spend a lot more time on this, but if we go into a presentation and our objective is primarily to separate the audience from their money, then it's a problem. It'll never succeed.
Hmm.
But here are some functional challenges, and the first one is this. And I made this mistake for decades, not years, decades. I made this mistake. And the mistake was I always thought that if I get in front of an audience and if I teach them a lot of great things, if I teach them how to do this and how to do that, they're going to walk away with some amazing value. They're going to love me and they're going to want to hire me or join my
Hmm.
program. And I've learned the hard way that that's the absolute opposite is true. You see, the biggest mistake I see that entrepreneurs make, one of the biggest mistakes, is that they teach too much. And what happens now is the audience thinks that they have what they need. So we've always been taught as entrepreneurs and even as speakers, we've been taught to solve problems. Our job is to solve the client's problem, solve the audience's problem. But from a speaking perspective, our job is not to solve the problem. If we solve the problem in the audience's mind, then they don't need us anymore. So our job is not to solve their problem. Our job is to reveal the problem. Our job is to change something in the audience's mind that makes them go like this. We want the audience to go, I've never thought of it like that before, or I've never heard it like that before. We want to change their perspective. We want to rattle their beliefs. We want to shake their paradigms a little bit. And now, when we do that, now they're open to learn. They know they have to learn something new. So that's the first thing we need to do. The next thing we need to do is we need to step back from the objective of separating them from their money and go more into the objective of positioning ourselves as somebody they need. You see, anytime we speak or present, we only position ourselves in one of two ways, and there are only two. We either position ourselves as somebody they need or as somebody they don't. And so if we give them too much content and if we solve their problem and if we teach them all kinds of things and if we give them all kinds of solutions, we're positioning ourselves as somebody they don't need because they're going to take all that great stuff and they're going to go away thinking they can do it themselves and they don't need me anymore. So to position themselves as somebody I need the audience to go, man, I never thought of it like that before. I'm doing something wrong. I need this person to help me. That's where we have to get the audience. Then after we do that, all the high pressure stuff doesn't need to be done. It's just a matter of sitting down with them and figuring out how you can serve them. Now, there's all kinds of strategy, behind how do we get the audience there.
Uh, yes, since you mentioned it, I would like to ask for two strategies, one for each. So, one for revealing the problem, as you said, and one
Mhm.
for positioning oneself as the person that the audience needs.
Right. Okay. So revealing the problem, um, this is the big work. This is the kind of work that I do with clients, and we figure all of
Mhm.
that out. But here's how we do this. I'll give you an explanation, then I'll give you an example. Okay.
Sure.
The explanation is this: we need to find a way that draws a straight line between us and the audience's problem, and it's a straight line that they didn't know existed. And
Mm.
that's the difficult thing. So it's like the audience, when they first see you, they don't know that you can solve their problem. And then you have to show them that the way you can solve their problem is by revealing a problem they hadn't thought about. So I'll give you a simple example. Okay. So when I speak, I usually tell this story. First, I ask the audience this question. I ask the audience, put up your hand if you or somebody you know is in the market for a tennis instructor. Now, when I do that, most people don't put their hands up. Some do, some don't. But usually, out of 100 people, one hand might go up because people just generally aren't walking the earth looking for a tennis instructor. So I tell the audience this. I say, I'm going to bet that at least 30 of you out of 100 are in the market for a tennis instructor right now, or you know somebody who is. So the audience starts thinking, yeah, how are you going to do that? So then I tell them about this guy named Brian. Now, Brian came to me about 20 years ago and he said, Steve, I'm going to all the events. I'm shaking all the hands. I'm speaking with all the people. He said, I'm just not getting the business that I need. I said, well, Brian, what do you do? He says, I'm a tennis instructor. And we see what the market is for tennis instructors. So
Mhm.
whenever he says, I'm a tennis instructor, what he's doing is he's positioning himself as somebody they don't need. So we taught Brian how to position himself as somebody they do need. So now, if you saw Brian today and said, what do you do? Brian would say something like this. He'd say, well, you know how sometimes kids have so much energy, they're bouncing off the walls, they're so excited, they're making all kinds of noise, and the parents have no idea what to do with these kids. He'd say, well, what I do is I take kids of any age, I bring them on a tennis court, I absolutely exhaust them, and then I hand them back to their parents. And then I ask the audience, put up your hand if you just might know somebody who might be in the market for a tennis instructor. And all of a sudden, every hand in the place goes up. Now,
Mm.
here's what it demonstrates. It demonstrates the point that just by changing the way you speak, by drawing a straight line between yourself and the audience's problem, a straight line that they haven't considered before, you can change the room from I'm not interested to tell me more very, very, very quickly. So drawing that straight line, that's the work. That's the part that I do. That's what I do is I help people draw that straight line. So there is no short answer to how to do that because everybody's different. But the outcome is when you speak, you position yourself as somebody they need instead of somebody they don't. And to do that, we need to be clear. What exactly do they need that they don't really know they need? And that's how we do that.
This is great, and I appreciate that it is very individual as an answer. But I think the example you gave is quite relatable because it goes from it is what you said, reveal the problem that they didn't know that
Yeah.
they had,
And,
which is I think it makes all
right.
the difference.
Yeah. And they're thinking, I never thought of it that way. I never
Yes.
thought of a tennis instructor like that before.
Uh, I suppose now that I've asked that, I was asking for you for one more strategy about the positioning myself as someone who need. In a way, a part of it has been answered, but if you
Yeah. It's
can
kind
add to
of,
that.
sure. Yeah. Okay. So there are three outcomes that we want our audience to feel when
Mhm.
we speak. And the first outcome is the one that is most often missed. And here they are. Well, let me back up. Have you ever heard the old adage that people buy from those they know, like, and trust? Have you heard that before? Okay.
Yes.
Everybody knows that, right? Okay. So I'm here to tell you that that's not true. Okay. It's not true because I know lots of people that I know very well that I very much like and I trust them with my life, but I would never hire them or buy from them because I don't believe they're qualified to solve my problem, whatever it is. But so know, like, and trust. Yes, they have to be there, but that is not why people hire us, nor is it why people buy from us. So there are three other outcomes that absolutely must occur. Number one is the audience needs to feel understood. Right? So what that means is the audience needs to feel, you know what, he gets me or she gets me. And you said the word, when I talk about Brian, the tennis instructor, you said the word relatable. That is mandatory. It has to be relatable. The audience needs to think that, but it's more than the audience relating to the speaker. The audience needs to feel that speaker understands me. So when we do Brian, the tennis instructor, everybody in the audience who's ever experienced children, they go, yep, that's me. That's me. I get that. So we need to get the audience to that. And this is where so many speakers really mess it up, because they get in front of the audience and they think, if I can get the audience to understand me, they're going to want to hire me. But the exact opposite is true. We should be saying, if I can get the audience to believe that I understand them, then the audience is more likely to move forward. So that's number one. The audience needs to feel understood. Number two is the audience needs to feel safe. Now, safe meaning that your objective is not to just separate them from their money. And the way we do that, of course, is by positioning ourselves in this position of service. So the audience has to feel that we are there to serve, not there to take, not there to just sell. So they need to feel understood. They need to feel safe. And they also need to have confidence. They need to have confidence that you can actually do what they need to have done. So this is why the Brian, the tennis instructor thing works for me so well, because they see it right before their eyes. In 30 seconds, the whole room goes from, I'm not interested, to tell me more, and like that. So I demonstrate that. So as a speaker, what we want to do is we want to find a way to demonstrate our skill in front of the audience instead of just telling them about our skill. So those three outcomes: they want to feel understood, they want to feel safe, and they want to feel confident. And if we achieve those three outcomes, and if we draw a straight line between us and their problem that they hadn't considered before, now we've positioned ourselves as somebody they just might need, at least somebody they're willing to investigate.
Thank you, Steve. You've seen me been smiling all along. I think it's like a mini masterclass on how to monetize your message. So thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome.
They are very useful
Good.
tips, and so obviously each can apply what to their own circumstances. Truly fascinating conversation, Steve. I understand also that you would like to offer to the listeners a free copy of your book. So can you please share how can people find out more about you, and where is the gift that you
Sure.
was to
Yeah.
share with us?
I'd like to give your audience a PDF copy of my first book. It's called From
Mhm.
Stage Fright to Spotlight.
Mhm.
99 Speaker Secrets to Breaking the Rules and Mastering the Stage. And I wrote this book back in 2010, I think, or something. And they can get it at my website at Steve Lowell, that's Lowell, stevelowell.com/free dash book. And they just sign up and they'll get it right away. And it's a fun read. It's 99 little, little pieces. So you can take it and pick it up and read it anywhere. To open up to a page and there's good things to read there, and so it's an easy book to read. But there's a lot of interesting things in there that will people really help people, I think.
Thank you. I can't help but think the similarity because my first book, which I released last year, was about 88 actionable insights. So now you hear the 99 from
Oh,
you, which
cool.
is, yes, so that's very interesting. Maybe someone has written 77 of something.
Maybe. Or maybe somebody wrote about the extra 20 between yours and mine. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
Oh, that's great. Steve, I do have, before we conclude today, I do have two quick last questions, which I always ask my guests. And the first one is, what does personal development mean to you?
Sure. Personal development means to me continued growth so that I can continue to serve.
And hypothetically speaking, if you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's one piece of advice you would give him?
Oh, I would look myself right in the face and say, "Get over yourself." That's what I would get over yourself, because I had such a and again, I had such a poor self image, and I was always worried about what other people thought, and so I just get over yourself. Yeah.
Very wise piece of advice, indeed. Steve, I want to thank you very much for a truly fascinating conversation. I will confess right now that there was another big topic that I wanted to discuss with you, but we didn't even have, I didn't want to, just scratch the surface, so I left it completely out because it would easily take equal time
Oh,
of
well,
that.
why don't we do this again?
That's a good idea, actually, and we can discuss. I will tell you which one it was. It was the signature talk, which
Sure.
is
Yep.
something I think very important and very unique to each of us. So that's great. We will arrange for sure a part two and go into that.
Let's do it.
I want to wish you all the very best with your mission and with what you do in your life, and I will leave it to you for your parting words of wisdom.
Well, thank you for that. Parting words of wisdom is understand this basic principle that speaking is not about a transference of information. Speaking is about a transference of emotion. So if I can get you to feel about my message the way I feel about my message, now we have communication.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Ricky, thanks for the opportunity. I look forward to doing this again.